And we talk about winning, Tony, and Italia 90 is probably the biggest moment that sticks out to pretty much every English football fan. Now, it must have had a special place in your heart, obviously with your father being from Italy, and going to your first World Cup competition. Can you share any memories? What was the feeling like, the journey throughout that competition, the sort of country's feel? It just seemed to all come together, really.
Actually, you made a good point there. It all came together because certainly before the tournament, I was just trying to make sure my place in the squad, that was the thing. I remember playing against, I think it was Czechoslovakia, come on in the second half at Wembley. That's when Gaza had a great game. I remember passing it to him. He went and scored. We won 4-2, and suddenly I was in the squad because I played well. Gaza had to play because he was just, he did fantastically well. And suddenly we started to get a little bit excited. Of course, a World Cup, and it's in Italy, for goodness sake. My father, being Italian, I remember watching the 82 World Cup in Spain, and when Italy won, obviously I'm watching it in the middle of the night with my dad. We jumped in the car and we're hooting and horn. Dad took me around and all this. It was just nuts. So the excitement of a World Cup was crazy. Australia got there. I remember the first one I watched them was in Germany, I think, before that. So the World Cup is just an absolute dream, a big dream. And there I am, with England going. But to have it in Italy as well, because they love their football. We love our football in England, absolutely. But they're nuts. They just, live, eat it, breathe it, whatever with football. So to go there was tremendous. And even when we arrived there, the coach that picked us up, just so stylish, everything was like wonderful. The guys looked slick with their glasses. The ladies looked superb. Our coach had light blue leather seats. I mean, come on. I thought, whoa, this is amazing. Without, England on the side, it was just everything about the place, was amazing. And obviously we're there to do the business, but I think really at the time you just lived the moment. You went from day to day to day, but you didn't realise what was going to be at the end of it. But I think the tournament for me was an absolute highlight. But we stumbled on the formation. Obviously we had three at the back with Mark Wright, Butch and Paul Parker, and from that we just seemed to get better and better. And I was in the squad, but never quite got on. I was sub in the semi-final. That's one heck of a time to be sub. And don't forget, before the game as well, we were talking about every kind of permutation and talking about penalties. And even Bobby Robson came up to me and says, "If you come on, will you take a penalty?" I'm thinking, Jesus. And now I'm taking penalties in the World Cup semi-final. I've gone, and I said yes instantly. And then I thought, what have I said? Oh my God! So it all kind of starts to sink in. But no, it was a wonderful experience that just kept getting better and better and better from Sardinia, and obviously going to Naples and Cameroon, and the Belgian game, and it just goes on and on and on. And some of the goals we scored, the places we went, it was wonderful, and some surreal moments. So many stories, some I really can't tell you, but I think the best is that we were locked away, and we never quite knew exactly the feeling back home. And of course, we saw a few papers and what have you, but today, social media, you'll get the feeling. Back then we didn't have that. So we never quite understood. Of course, we went to the ground and it was all going crazy, but you kind of expect that. It's a World Cup, for goodness sake, but we never quite got at how it just enthralled every single person, back home. And it was just one incredible journey that unfortunately finished a little bit too early, because that night in Turin was obviously one we'll never ever forget. We should have won. We should have goddamn won, shouldn't we? Sorry, I just can't help it. It's those penalties and what have you. And afterwards, in the dressing room, trying to console Wadler and Piercy, it couldn't be done, And of course, Gaza, he's in tears. It was just so many mixed emotions, and I think sometimes as well, you look back and think, you know what? We got beat by a better side, but we didn't. I thought we could have won that. We should have won that. We played so well, and we should have been in the World Cup final, which it was crazy. And you look back, and it doesn't come along. It won't come along again. You just live that moment. But it was it was an amazing moment. And I was, part of all of that. And I ended up playing in the third and fourth place playoff. Started the game against Italy. And mixed emotions there as well. It was, again, a wonderful experience for me. My family were there. My dad came down to Bari to watch the game. I playing against Italy as well in Italy. Stuff of dreams, really. It was crazy. And I played really well, and I set the goal up for Platty to score. Unfortunately, we lost 2-1, and I remember after the game, my dad, with a beaming smile, says, "Son, you played fantastic." I said, "Yeah, Dad, but we lost the bloody semi. We've just lost against Italy as well." He goes, "Yeah, but Italy won. They beat England, and you played really well. What do I want?" I said, "Dad, that's not the right answer, mate. That's not the right answer." But I've got so many great memories. I suppose a lot of things. Obviously, the Gasser stories. There's so much stuff. But I think for me, one of my biggest memories of sheer class, I think, was the third and fourth place game against Italy. I played against their captain, Giuseppe Bergami. During the game, Scalacci whacked me in the face and split my eye, the little shit. I tried to spend the next 60 minutes trying to catch him and chop him down. But anyway, but I played up against Giuseppe Bergami, who was their skipper, playing kind of right wing back, and I was left wing back. And after the game, all the hoo-ha's finished, got our medals and what have you, and walking down the tunnel. And I was right near the back, and everyone in front of me was walking down the tunnel, England players and Italian players, and they were swapping shirts. And this was all going on, and everyone's trying to grab, each other's shirt. And I didn't think about swapping shirts, really. I'm just walking and soaking up the moment, but I was, one of the last ones in. And then I can see someone go up to Giuseppe Bergami and ask, actually, Lineker didn't play. But anyway, he said, "Can you swap shirts?" He goes, no. And when someone else got in, no. And then he's looking past me and going, waving. And I thought there must be someone behind me. So I ignored him, and I kept walking, and he kept waving again. And I thought, is he waving to someone behind me? I look behind me. There's no one behind me. It's me that he's waving at. I'm thinking, oh, God. "Hi, Giuseppe, I'm sorry." I walk up to him. I says, "What?" He says, "Can we swap shirts?" I said, "Can we swap shirts?" I would love that. Be absolutely honoured. So we swapped shirts, which was great. He then said, "You don't want to swap shorts?" I said, "Well, okay, let's swap shorts then." So I give him my shorts. I got these shorts. He took his boots off and said, "What about socks?" I said, "Yeah, let's go socks, mate." So I give him my socks, and I called a halt after that. I said, nothing more. He goes, "Thank you very much. Give me a big hug. It was a pleasure," and walked off. And I thought, Jesus, class of the man, class of the man. So that's a wonderful memory for me from what was, just an amazing journey of 6-7 weeks, and then getting back to England. That's when you realise, oh my God, the country went crazy. They went nuts, and we landed at Luton, and wives, girlfriends in our cars were at the hotel, about 1.5 miles away, and all I remember is getting on this bus. And just people, hundreds of thousands of people were lining the road, and it took us 1.5 hours to go like a couple of miles. It was just nuts. And then you realise, wow, it clearly had caught the grip of the nation. They were living it with us, and we got a bit of fulfilling of that, but not the full thing, because we had a job to do. But it was amazing. It was fantastic.
And just I've just picked up on something there. I was doing a little bit of research on the third, fourth place, just lineups, and obviously you wouldn't have come into direct contact with him. But what was it like coming up against the likes of Baresi? I mean that must have been
some of these players. You look at them from afar and think, wow, these guys are wonderful. But I think once you get kind of to my level, you have to look at it differently. You have to think, well, they're just a player. You know what I mean? I'm going to show not how good Baresi is, but how good is Dorigo. So you've got to make, because if you go in there with that sort of thing, you're already a step behind. So and it's difficult to do. Let me say that straight away, because these players are incredible. There's so many. I think players, you think back then that, wow, these guys are great, but we gave as good as we got. We played extremely well, and unfortunately, we just end up on the wrong side. But yeah, it was wonderful, and you soon realise that, you can live at this level, you can play, you're a decent player yourself. That's what it's a challenge, but it's a wonderful thing. But yeah, looking back, would love to have done it even more.
And before we get back into your club football career, I just wanted to ask you a question from a personal standpoint. Would you say Paul Gascoigne is the best English talent you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a question I get asked fairly recently, fairly often, is one that's, who's the best player I played with? And I would have to say Gazza, for the pure natural talent that he had. He was the best. I mean, if you think what he became, the type of player that he become, I always look back and think what he could have become. He really could have been one of the world's best, absolutely. But he was fantastic. I played with Gazza in under-21s as well. So I was captain in one tournament. That was interesting, trying to captain Gazza. Good luck with that one. But no, he was just fantastic. He loved football, and he was such a talent. And I think when I noticed it more so, obviously he could do things with both feet that other people couldn't. But when more so I noticed when we got into the full squad, and there we were, training down at Bisham Abbey, and you're with the likes of Brian Robson and Gary Lineker and Terry Butcher and all these, David Platt and all these great players. Yet there's one player that has more time than anyone else. There's one player that looks a yard quicker in his head than anyone else. And he's doing it against the best in the country, the best 23 players. And he's looking like he's another level. And he's just got in the squad. And you're thinking, whoa, wow, this kid is something else. And, he showed flashes of that in games. Is just incredible. And actually, during the lockdown, I've been watching just some clips that keep coming up. And you look back, you think, geez, Gazza was absolutely some player. So yeah, he was wonderful to play with because he always wanted the ball. And as a fullback, I wanted to give it to someone further forward, and he was one of them that always wanted it. So it was brilliant. Yeah.